Hey, if you're like me and you're trying to decide whether to pour your budget into an 8-bay NAS, let me walk you through what matters before you click buy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks setting up a pair of these units in a small office, swapping drives, tweaking network cards, and watching how they handle everything from video editing caches to nightly backup jobs, so I can share what actually matters when the hype settles down. First off, the RS1221RP Plus isn't a plug-and-play box you just pop on a shelf and forget about. It arrives diskless, which means you need to budget for the drive separately, but that also gives you the freedom to pick the exact mix of capacity and performance you need. In practice, I loaded it with four 4TB WD-RED Plus drives for bulk storage and two 1TB Samsung 970 EVO SSDs for cache, and the system immediately started to feel like a dedicated media server rather than a generic file share. The read speed tops out around 2.3 GB per second when the cache SSDs are engaged, which is fast enough to pull 4K video files off the NAS without a hiccup, and the write side stays solid above 1 GB per second, meaning large batch backups finish in a fraction of the time you'd expect from a typical 8-bay unit. One of the biggest practical strengths is the short depth, just 298mm, which makes it fit comfortably in a standard 19-inch rack without crowding out neighboring equipment. That compact footprint is a real win for small server rooms where every millimeter counts. The RP in the model name signals redundant power supplies, and I tested that by pulling the primary PSU during a file transfer, the unit kept humming along with zero interruption. For anyone who can't afford a single point of failure, that redundancy is a tangible safety net. Network performance is another area where the RS1221RP Plus pulls ahead of many rivals. Out of the box it ships with a 1 GB port, which is fine for basic file serving, but the chassis includes a PCIe slot that takes a Synology SFP Plus or 10 GB RJ45 card. After I installed a 10 GB card, my data transfer rates jumped roughly five-fold, turning a previously sluggish backup of a 1 TB VM library into a quick, painless operation. If you're already running a 10 GB backbone or planning to upgrade, the ability to slot in that card without buying a whole new NAS is a practical cost saver. The high availability (HA) feature is often mentioned in the specs, but it's worth unpacking why it matters. You can pair two RS1221RP Plus units and configure Synology High Availability, which essentially mirrors data in real time and provides automatic failover. In my test, I set up a second unit as a standby node, and when I simulated a power loss on the primary, the secondary took over instantly. For businesses that can't tolerate downtime, think a small video production house delivering daily cuts to clients. That kind of resilience is worth the extra hardware expense. Now, let's talk about where the RS1221RP Plus might fall short for some users. Because it's diskless, the total cost of ownership can climb quickly if you need high-capacity drives for all 8 bays. Those drives also generate heat, and while the unit's built-in fans do a decent job, you'll notice the fans spin up under heavy load, which can add to ambient noise in an office setting. If you're a quiet-home office user or a hobbyist who only needs a couple of drives for personal backups, the 8-bay chassis is overkill. You'd be paying for space you never use and for redundant power you'll never need. Also, the RAID management interface, while intuitive, does require a bit of learning if you've never dealt with Synology's Disk Station Manager before. It's not a barrier, but there's a short learning curve before you feel confident setting up tiered storage or custom snapshots. Who should definitely consider this box? Small to medium businesses that run multiple services off a single storage pool. Think a design studio with Photoshop and After Effects caches, a surveillance setup storing dozens of camera feeds, or an IT department hosting a handful of virtual machines. If you already have a rack and need a server that can grow with you, the RS1221RP Plus gives you the breathing room to add drives later, upgrade the network card, and even spin up an HA pair without buying a whole new platform. It also makes sense for power users who already own high-capacity NAS-grade drives and want to leverage them in a more robust, enterprise-style enclosure. Who should skip it? Anyone whose storage needs are modest: a single-user home media library, a few terabytes of personal photos, or a casual backup solution. For those scenarios, a 2-bay or 4-bay Synology model will be cheaper, quieter, and easier to set up. If you don't have a dedicated rack or you're not planning to invest in 10 GB networking, you'll be paying a premium.